I've got a facility, I've got a church, now what do I do with it? Dustin Kirby here with Foundational Facility Management Consulting. Now, you can view your church building as a blessing, and it is, but in some cases, it can be a hindrance. So what I mean by that is, you know what? You might have a situation where you've taken over and the church has a lot of deferred maintenance. Maybe the building is in disrepair and you don't have the funds to repair it. Maybe your church was built at one time for a larger congregation and you just can't fill it anymore. And not only can you not fill it, you don't have the funds to upkeep that building. It seems like we're running into that problem more and more. Times have changed. Brick and mortar has changed. There's online church communities, everything, but it is still so important to bring people into your church building for fellowship. Your building is truly a blessing, and now that you've got the building, what we want to figure out is what is the best way you can use it for you and for your church's future. So your budget needs to align with what the vision of the church leadership is, including the facility budget. Now, we don't want you to have this big old building that's not being used, that is just draining your funds and keeps you from maybe what you want to do is more outreach programs where you and your congregation are going out into the community, but you feel like, hey, we don't even have the funds to do what we wanted to do because we're trying to keep this building from falling down, and it feels like all of your extra money is going towards that. That can be a very frustrating situation. So what we want to do is take where you're at and then align your future goals with your spending. So look at what your options are. So you've got the building. Do you want to stay in this building long term? Now, if you do want to stay in the building, what is the feasibility of that? And what I mean by that is look at what your annual costs are to keep that building functional. So let's even say you bring in an outside company and they assess this is what's going to cost facility-wise over the next 10 years to keep your building working properly so that your roof's not leaking, so that your HVAC system is running, so that you're not having deterioration fall in around you. You want to know what that is. What are your utilities? When you put those together, you're going to see this is what it's going to cost me over the next 10 years to maintain this building. Now, this is pretty simple math. I know I'm just giving an example here, but if over the next 10 years, it's going to cost you $5 million to maintain the building, and you can see that your total budget over those next 10 years is not even $5 million, and I'm not even saying just the facility budget, but your total budget, then you've got a very big problem. Then it's how do you supplement? Are you partnering with other churches? Maybe they're using it at different times. Maybe your building is set up where you might have an old sanctuary and a new sanctuary where you can bring in another church that uses even the building at the same time as you. So maybe they're using your old sanctuary and you're using your new sanctuary. Maybe you partner with a daycare center. There's different things you can do. You can rent out your parking if it's if it's high traffic area and parking is needed in the area. You can rent your parking out during the week. I know that I've worked in a system before where county buildings were renting out a church during the week, the parking lot, because a lot of events happen at the county building next to that church all week long. They needed to pay that church for that parking. That church was in prime real estate. So I've seen also the example many times of churches adopting daycares, whether they partner with an outside entity to bring a daycare in and run it, or whether they start one themselves. Of course, either way, you need to make sure that it's a licensed daycare, that you're following all your local laws and regulations. But there's different ideas is what I'm getting at. So maybe it's a different nonprofit. Maybe your local Red Cross or a different nonprofit in town is looking for some space. Maybe you can set your church up so that part of your space is actually what has become popular, micro offices, where people are able to come in and they work at these remote offices. A lot of entrepreneurs will use these areas. So maybe you rent out part of your building as office space. There's different ways to do that. Maybe it's for remote offices or for entrepreneurs that just want to rent a small area during the week that they can come and go as they please. But there's different ideas there. You've got the building. Now, how do you fill it? If you know that, hey, my local area is not growing, of course you want to continue to grow if you can as a church. But you might know that the reality of the situation is there's lots of churches in the area, and the percentage of churched people already might be higher than the national average. While your goal is still to reach out and have that at 100%, you might know that in reality, even with some growth, you're not going to fill your building again. When that reality hits, that's whenever you're asking yourself, what do we do with the building? Maybe you're in a position that you can sell that building, and then you can actually afford to purchase a smaller church facility that is maybe more efficient, less overhead, things like that. If you're not able to sell it and you're in a position where, hey, we have this building, we can't sell, it's like I said before, how do you fill it? That is the goal, is how do you fill that building? Like I had said before, some ideas, there's many ideas, and you want to think outside the box here, but it is parking, renting out your parking, daycares, those are great. Even small schools, you might be able to open up a small school in your building. Other local nonprofits that are looking for space to use, to rent, partnering with some other local churches. Maybe it's one church, maybe it's multiple. If you've got a gymnasium, that's always something that can bring in people during the week. And I also had the idea, hey, you can use that area as an office space. Now, any of these ideas are most likely going to cost you some upfront money. Like I said, if it's a daycare, you might have to put some money in to get your building up to the standards to have a daycare in there. If it's office space, you might have to do some changing so that people can come in and out as they please, but that your building is still secure. And you might want to put your lights onto a different system, a motion detector system, so that you're not just running electricity if someone comes in and leaves the light on. So there's many things to think about, but the main purpose of this video is to say you are not alone, and think of your building as a blessing. I know that sometimes it can feel like a hindrance. I know if you feel like I don't have the budget to upkeep this building and I don't know what to do, it can feel like, hey, I'm trapped. Our church is trapped. But you're not. You do have avenues. You're going to have to think outside the box. You're going to have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. Talk to your local chamber of commerce. The town really wants all organizations, including churches, to succeed. When you're succeeding, when you're growing, it helps everyone. So make sure to take advantage of the resources. If you do have a pastor group that you can partner with just to bounce ideas off of, or if you can bring a professional in that can help you at least assess, this is my cost of the building, so you can see what is my building going to cost me over the next 10 years. That is extremely important to start with, because you can't make informed decisions without information. So I hope this helps. I just want to encourage you that your building can still be an asset. You might have to think differently than what it was originally planned for, and you might have to talk some of the rest of your congregation into going along with those ideas. But think of your vision, talk to the rest of your leadership, make a plan, and go for it. I hope that everything works out for you, and I'd be happy to talk to you if you have any questions. Have a great day.